I've been there, scrolling through endless listings of home generators, each one promising uninterrupted power and peace of mind, only to end up with a unit that sputters when the first thunderstorm rolls in. The frustration builds because the product photos look immaculate, the specs read like a promise of unlimited juice, and then the real-world test reveals a generator that can't keep the whole house alive long enough to finish a load washer cycle. If you're hesitating because you've heard those stories, you're not alone. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So let's talk about the Generac Guardian 26 kilowatts home standby generator with a 200 amp transfer switch. This is the model that sits at the top of the list for anyone who wants whole house backup during a storm, a grid outage, or any emergency that knocks the lights out. It's a big commitment, the unit itself costs several $1,000s, you'll need a professional installation, and you have to decide whether natural gas or propane will feed it. That's why I've spent the last few weeks digging into the specs, reading the installation manuals, and watching a handful of long-form user videos to see how it behaves when the power actually goes out. First off, the headline number, 26 kilowatts, is impressive. In practice, that means you can run a typical 3-bedroom home with all the major appliances on at once: vac, refrigerator, oven, electric water heater, a few lights, and still have headroom for a dryer and a home office setup. The 200 amp transfer switch is built right into the package, which eliminates the need to buy a separate switch and coordinate a second electrician. For families that rely on medical equipment or home-based businesses, that kind of whole-house protection is the reason you'd even consider a standby generator. Now, the real question is, does the Guardian deliver that promise without pulling a hidden surprise? The first practical strength is the remote monitoring system. Generac's Wi-Fi module lets you see the generator's status from a smartphone app, whether it's running, how many hours it's been on, fuel level, any error codes. In the middle of a nighttime outage, that notification that the unit has kicked in and is running at full load is a huge relief. It also means you can schedule regular maintenance alerts, which keeps the warranty intact and prevents the dreaded "it won't start when you need it" scenario. Another strength is the long-term assurance claim. Generac backs this model with a 5-year limited warranty, and the design includes a corrosion-resistant enclosure that handles the humidity and salt air you'd find on the Gulf Coast. In the videos I watched from homeowners who have had the unit for 2 years, they praised the fact that the unit never needed a filter change or a fuel line flush despite being in a coastal environment. That kind of durability is what separates a generator that sits in the garage gathering dust from one that actually powers the house when the grid fails. Installation is marketed as easy, but that's a bit of a misnomer if you're not a licensed electrician or plumber. The unit itself is bolted to a concrete pad, the transfer switch is wired into the main panel, and a gas line is connected. For a DIY-savvy homeowner, the step-by-step guide is clear, but most buyers will still need at least 2 professionals, an electrician for the transfer switch and a gas technician for the fuel hookup. The hidden cost here is the installation labor, which can add a few $1,000s to the overall price. If you were hoping to bolt a generator yourself and save money, you'll need to factor that in. When it comes to daily usability, the Guardian is remarkably quiet for its size. It sits at around 65 dB at a 1 meter distance, which is about the noise level of a normal conversation. For a house with a finished basement or a backyard where kids play, that's a real plus. The generator automatically starts within seconds of a power loss, and the transfer switch seamlessly flips the house over to generator power without any flicker. In practice, I've seen it keep a 5-ton HVAC system running while the house's refrigerator, a sump pump, and a home office router stay online, all without any noticeable drop in voltage. That consistency matters because many lower-rated units cause lights to dim or appliances to cycle off when the load spikes. On the flip side, there are a couple of practical weaknesses to keep in mind. The first is fuel consumption. At a 50% load, the 26 kilowatts unit burns roughly 1.5 gallons of propane per hour, or about 0.6 gallons of natural gas per hour. That means if you're running a full house load for an 8-hour outage, you'll need a sizable propane tank or a reliable natural gas line with sufficient pressure. Homeowners on propane often have to schedule a refill, and in a prolonged disaster scenario that could become a bottleneck. The second drawback is the size and weight. The unit weighs over 2,300 pounds, so moving it for service or replacement is not something you can do on your own. If